Yeah.
Well, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Film Van Reviews. And we just got out of seeing Ari Aster's new movie, and it is titled
Beau is afraid.
Beau is Afraid. The whole movie is really about, like, trauma and dealing with it, and Joaquin Phoenix, holy shit, does this man put on another just fantastic performance. Like, he won for Joker, and yes, Joker is fantastic, but this performance, it might even be more impactful than Joker, honestly, with like everything he had to do specifically for a performance. Insane. I mean, this movie, although it is an Ari Aster movie, and you're probably thinking, oh, it's Midsummer, hereditary horror stuff, while it does get some of that horrific imagery in there, this is not what I would call a traditional horror movie, even by those standards, because those aren't really traditional horror movies that kind of play with stuff. And this one's almost more of like the darkest comedy I've ever seen, almost. Like, there's a lot of dark humor in here that does land a lot, but it's also makes you just so uncomfortable at the same time, and it's visual stuff that you really couldn't even imagine you're about to see. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a lot of uncomfortable imagery is what I want to say. I don't want to say anything too much more than that, but if you're into that kind of stuff, you're definitely going to get your pay's worth. So what do you have to add so far?
I mean, it was such a... It's a really great film, don't get me wrong. I've really enjoyed a lot of the different... Um, this is a tough thing to get into because I'm trying not to give you any kind of spoilers whatsoever, but this is just a really out there and bizarre film. And honestly, I'm still trying to digest what I just got out of the theater and saw. Like, this is a great film, very immersive acting. Honestly, had me on the edge of the seat for, I'd say, a good 95% of that film.
Yeah, it is 3 hours long, or just under 3 hours long, but I did not feel it whatsoever, honestly. I was engrossed in the story and how it took you on all these different turns. You could have ended a few times probably, but I also didn't want it to end. I just kept wanting to see where it was going to go next. And with Ari Aster, you know the sky's the limit if you've seen those first two movies or any of his short films, and he definitely plays with everything that I've ever really seen him do. Because I have seen some of his short films where he plays with comedy a bit more too, but his first two features being much more horror, and this one kind of almost lands right in the middle almost, and it kind of plays with, it's a drama for sure, and it's a comedy, and it's horror, but it also, like I told him right when we turned to each other at the end of the movie, this is the weirdest adaptation of the Odyssey that I've ever seen in my entire life, because it's also a hero's journey at the same time while it's being, talking about trauma, maternal trauma specifically, and so much other stuff there, whether it being with mental health and dealing with that kind of stuff and like medication and kind of just the lifestyle of someone dealing with mental health issues and the burdens it has not only on your own personal brain and everything, but how you feel about the people around you and how they might be perceiving your issues and stuff like that. And there's a lot here that honestly I'd love to sit down on a therapy session with Ari Aster and just kind of ask him so many questions, because although we kind of get that kind of stuff in the first two movies that he's made, this one feels so much like he's wanting to tell us a bunch of stuff, and it's going to be really fun to look back at, as well as his other movies. Like, I just watched Midsummer this morning, and I saw a bunch more stuff in there on a rewatch, and it's the first time I've watched it since the theater, I think, so I'm looking forward to getting back into Beau is Afraid, too, because there's so much going on in the background, too, and literally background action going on that's honestly more hilarious than what's going on in the foreground sometimes, and almost distracts you from stuff. And our theater was laughing at parts that I didn't even expect them to laugh at, but it kind of got me comfortable laughing, too, even though it's kind of the most uncomfortable thing you've seen at certain points. But overall, Beau is Afraid, and like I was talking about the other movies, this has the same cinematographer, same editor, like a lot of the same crews that he's had from his first two movies, and it really pays off and shows because the visuals in here, like I said, are fantastic. He plays with the camera and like flips it around like his traditional shot, like in Midsummer and everything when he does the sign, and there's a lot of touches in here that you can tell are Ari Aster, but his team is just so creative with the visuals they put on the screen, and the editing too is fantastic. Just overall, it is a fantastic movie, and honestly, on my 5-star rating scale, I don't think I can give it below a 5 at this moment. Like, I really enjoyed it. I know you're a little bit more thinking about it still, but that's why I kind of loved it so much, and I'm really excited to watch it again, and that's why I really want to give it a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, and I'd reiterate that I too would give it a 5 out of 5. It's not necessarily that I don't dislike this film in any way. There's just a lot of subject matter in this film that can really leave you speechless. Um, you know, you walking into this movie having any kind of prediction of what's going to happen, I can tell you right now, you're 100% wrong. You're not going to know what it is that you're about to be literally spoon-fed through this entire movie.
Yeah, and it literally spoon-fed is the exact thing, because it gives you certain things and it also just rips it right away from you. It's like, ha, you thought that was going to happen, but this is what's actually happening.
Yeah.
And just stuff like that, almost like a soap opera in some ways, but it is so fantastic in that way. And honestly, like you were saying, leave you speechless, but at the same time, it also wants me to keep talking about it and want me to digest it more and kind of learn more. And
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this movie for sure, and it's one thing that I feel like Ari Aster is really great at doing. Just like how you were talking about seeing things going on in the background. Not even just in that way. I mean, there's a lot of imagery and
even just like literally billboards and stuff of just a bunch of information that you'll get to learn later, but he's giving it to you right away too. Like he does that in Midsummer a lot too with the different paintings and stuff. But
exactly,
the art design is so fantastic in here, and that's part of the story. And it honestly, like, it pays dividends to the actual story itself, but it also shows how creative that Ari Aster and his team really are. So
right.
it's a 5 out of 5 for sure. Please comment below if you've watched it. Let us know what you think about it and all the different things. We can spoil a little bit in the comments, so if you haven't seen it yet, maybe don't go down there too much. But also tell me what your favorite Ari Aster movie is, or like your favorite Ari Aster moment, or what's your favorite horror of this year. I'd love to chat with you down there, and subscribe to the Adam and Steve Show too. I'm sure we're going to get really into this. We're going to have a new recording probably next week where we talk about all these new movies. So I will see you next time, and maybe you'll see us at the movies.